Space, the final frontier.
This is the podcast of State of the Federation.
Its ongoing mission.
To preview strange new ships.
To seek out new builds and new combinations.
To boldly go where no fleet has gone before.
Citizens of the Federation, and welcome back to another episode of State of the Federation. I'm your host, Tucker, and with me today are my co-hosts, Robert and Joseph. How you guys doing?
I am doing phenomenal. As a little bit of news, fiber was installed in my house today, and my upload speed is now 80, and my download speed is 80 megabytes per second, and my upload is 85 megabytes per second.
A whole new world.
I know. I don't know what to do with this power.
Dazzling place I never knew.
It is going from DSL to this. It's like I got glasses for the first time, and I can see the world clearly.
And it's a whole new world in more ways than one, because here we are at the dawning of the soft reboot.
That's right.
New content.
That's right. The drought is over for the first time in who knows how long.
Technically, the pack is not out yet. So
the preview is here, Robert. The preview is here.
We could have another Docker strike. It has happened.
We made it.
Yeah, but they can't stop us from doing the most important thing in playing.
You can't stop the signal now.
Arguing on. Well, they can't stop us from arguing about the cards online, right? So,
which is arguably, which is, of course, the most important thing ever, is arguing about whether these cards are good or not. And speaking of which, today we're going to be arguing about the USS Grissom, which is the first preview.
So I have to say, because it's been so, what have we figured out? 6 months since we've seen a new card? Or since we've had a new expansion?
I don't even know anymore. Let me look it up on Board Game Geek. Hang on.
Because we have all had this reserve of wanting to express ourselves an opinion about this game on the new cards. And I have to say, I have seen the least amount of hostility towards a pack of cards that I have ever seen.
It's like a drowning man going for water. You know, you don't.
Knowing that we are all Star Trek nerds and how fandom works, even a drowning man will complain about the taste of the water.
Well, let's see how the water tastes. And you're right; it has been 6 months since the Muratas hit.
Wow.
So I guess we've had the prizes since then, some of them, but retail, man, oh boy.
And those prizes were not the best of all prizes.
Are you kidding? I still love Lursa and Vitor. I'm still trying to find a...
Trying to make them work.
It's going to happen.
Stop making Lursa and Vitor or try work.
You know what? They will work they will work when Energy Dissipator works. There will be a reckoning.
No. None of those things will ever work.
Energy Dissipator. All right, anyway, before I get completely sidetracked by this, let's start taking a look at this pack. So today's pack it's not even a ship, it's a pack for $9.99. You just get the cards, which I am fine with, by the way. It is the USS Grissom, which is, of course, an Oberth class. It's from Star Trek 3. It's the ship that smug guy gets blown up on, and an excuse for Saavik and David Marcus to be stranded on the Genesis planet. So right here, we've got a 2-3-3-2. That's 2 attack, 3 agility, 3 hull, 2 shields. Federation Oberth class, unique, obviously. It's got a name. We've got evade, target, lock, and scan. No battle stations on the action bar. Upgrade slots, tech, crew. And the ability is, when this ship would be destroyed, the attacking ship must discard 1 crew upgrade. If it can't, place an auxiliary power token beside it. And of course, if you don't know, the big news is that it is 14 points. We are no longer tying points directly stats in a 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, and as comparison, the Pegasus, which is the other Oberth class, costs 20 points, and the generic costs 18 points.
Whereas the article, if you didn't catch it in the text, has confirmed for us that the generic Oberth will only cost 12 points.
What do you think the slots are? Crew and tech?
That's actually a good question. Are they going to move away from only reducing the slot by 1? I believe Utopia is currently speculating tech crew. I don't know if they have a source for that or if that's just pure speculation.
I mean, Fed ships are normally high on crew slots, right? So
That's true.
I'd bet on them losing the tech.
Well, let me have a look here. If we look at the generic Pegasus Oberth class, it is tech crew.
Really?
So, yeah.
What's the... Oh, that's probably going to be the same then.
Yeah, not necessarily, but I'd bet on that.
Yeah, that's a good bet.
Well, here's...
I would not try to challenge you on your money for that bet.
Does the Pegasus have battle stations?
No, it does not. No Oberth class has battle stations. Now, here's another question. Is the generic going to lose a shield?
It probably has to.
Why?
I say.
I bet they keep it consistent. I imagine.
No, because when you think about it, right, if they're tying ship stats directly to point cost, the only reason they have to drop a shield on the generic is so that they can get it cheaper than the unique one. Because if it's
I always felt the dropping of a stat wasn't so much to make it cheaper, but more to reflect that the name shipped is better.
But then why would they always make it a shield? Like what? If you're in
consistency's sake.
Okay, then how come the generic NX class and Romulan 22nd Century Bird of Prey are the same cost?
Bad design.
we don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
We don't.
I think we have seen across, like the Robinson. I think the Robinson is a good example of this, where the Robinson is a Federation Jem'Hadar battle. What do they call them? Battleship. Attack ship. Right. But the generic one is still a Dominion one. So I think, in my sense, how I voice in the game is that the name ship has that extra special ability, and then the generic is just something that the Federation pushes out of the space dock.
That is only something they started doing about halfway through the game. Even theoretically captured ships used to be generics of the. For example, the generic Assimilation Target Prime. They had a generic Borg Federation one. In fact, all the generic ships had both. I guess both. Did it? Did they come with both, or did they just come with the?
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
Which was relevant, which was great. But what did it change? I think it changed for the Grissom ship. Did it change there?
Grissom. No, the Grissom ship. There's only one Grissom ship.
Yeah, but is the generic independent mirror or just?
Yeah, it is. You know what? The Soong is that's a bad example.
Borg only, right?
Yeah, that's a bad example though. I can't. Yeah, I'm trying to think of. I know there's one out there, and it's driving me nuts. I'm going to look at Utopia. I'm going to open up Utopia. I'm going to go to the set viewer. I'm going to browse through. But in the meantime, okay, let's talk about this ship, because here's one thing I love about this design. Before we even jump into all of the implications of it as a the mechanics and stuff, this is such a good match for what happens to the Grissom on screen.
Yeah, you were mentioning this to me today. Many of these cards are actually highly thematic.
Yeah, the fact that it's what happens to the Grissom. I guess this is spoilers for Star Trek 3. If for some reason you're listening to a Star Trek tabletop game podcast and you haven't seen a movie that came out literally before I was born, if it basically the Grissom gets blown up by a Klingon ship by accident because the gunner was only supposed to disable it. And then Christopher Lloyd, as a Klingon, kills the gunner in punishment. So when you blow up the Grissom, somebody has to die for the lucky shot.
That's awesome.
I think
this is such a great ship.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know if I like this ship as a ship. This is one of 2 cards in the pack I don't really like that much.
Oh, I love this. I love it.
Well,
I mean, this is great fodder for intercept. This is great fodder for boosting up its attack ability and just making people second guess or change their strategy to accommodate your strategy.
I mean, but it's
Right?
like,
It's a quintessential mosquito. This thing just flies around and bites you.
or it just eats a go ball.
Yeah, but it needs a go ball. But who's putting a go ball on the ship specifically to counter the Grissom?
You're putting okay. Then it eats a Lenalis. I mean, are you going to pair this with Madrid? Of course, you're going to pair this with Madrid. Why am I even asking?
Well, okay, so let's look at the role it's going to probably play, because at 14 points, it's going to compete with shuttles and other support ships like the Romulan science vessel, right?
Mm-hmm,
I mean, it's the same cost. It's cheaper than Quark's treasure. So in that role, it's got better slots. I mean, Quark's treasures, you can upgrade the slots, right? So it's got comparable to that. And then it's better slots than the science vessel. It's got a target lock, so it can give you dice quality, which none of those support ships can. So that's a big difference. And then it's just an added bonus in that kind of a role, because when you use the shuttle or the support vessel to do its tricks, then normally it kind of flies around and does nothing. Now it's going to get target lock attacks, and if they do kill it to try and grab some points, it's going to cost them, right?
Well, but
it's a great ship ability for a support ship.
So
and great slots for a support ship. Crew tech,
that's right.
That's yeah.
So here are my two objections to it. Number one, it is more expensive to put 2 cloaked mines on this than it is to put them on the Talbath.
Yeah, okay, but the Talbath has an attack of 1, doesn't have a target lock.
Sure.
And doesn't have an easy ability to increase its attack by 2.
Sure. Number 2, a shuttle can just dock on another ship and hide.
Right, but
So-
it's getting launched. It's not. If you're making a shuttle knot, then this is a different thing. But if you're launching a shuttle to use it as a ganker or for effects, right? I think this competes with that pretty aggressively.
Well, what I'm saying is after the shuttle's done ganking, you can just dock it and hide it for the rest of the game.
But Joseph and
No,
I have
you
been
can't.
experimenting. Well, yeah. Well,
No, you can't.
And Joseph and I have been experimenting with fleets like 4 ships against 5 ships in a 1-hour tournament setting at 130 points. And you're only losing 1 or 2 ships in that time, just based on the amount of time it takes to move the ships and plan. So the risk of losing a Grissom that's maybe 30 points isn't that substantial if it's effectively helping you to take out a 50-point ship.
Okay, so what we're saying, what do we do with this? Like, let me pull up Utopia here. So we pull up, we do Grissom. We start there. Off the top of my head, I would say Sakona.
I would even go Sakona. What I might do is Ahab Picard with Ivix Dynasty.
Well, what I'm thinking is Sakona Arsenal Type 8s, upgraded phasers, and then Captain is.
You need something with battle stations, so Ducat or.
Oh, see, well, I was assuming that your resource is co-pilot, and then you take what
Riker would be Riker.
Riker is
Extra,
what I was.
extra tacti Riker.
Yeah, extra tacti Riker because he's got 3 hull.
Yeah, I would say that taking up the opportunity cost of Sakona and Arsenal, it's not gonna, and using your co-pilot for the round, like it's not gonna hold up under that much weight, right? Like it's not good enough for that. I see it more as like the RSV that Jordan played in Nationals that had Romulan pilot and the Vulcan talent, the diplomacy, right?
Okay, so we've got.
That's what it is.
Oh yeah, diplomacy.
It's just better than the other ships you would use.
I love
let's
diplomacy.
take a
on this.
minute to look at this dial too, which Tucker just put up. It's white comeabouts for both 3 and 2.
Yeah, it's got a great dial. It's slow. It doesn't have a 4 forward, but There's a card for that, isn't there?
Does it does it have green 2 banks?
Yeah, it has green 2 banks, which is
Yeah.
actually detrimental.
Oh, and you know what you could do is you could spend one of those tech slots on the 2-point Bajoran Talent Warp Drive refit to give it that 4 forward.
That's right. I actually don't think that the 2 banks are detrimental that much in this kind of ship, because if it's just going to get diplomacy off, lure's not going to stop it from getting range 3, and they don't want to waste lure on this ship, right?
All right, that's true. All right, so what captain do we put on here?
I in going with Joseph's comments about this being a disruption ship, I think you actually have to go with a low captain. So this might actually even be a really good Decker ship.
Well,
I like that.
yeah, I'll say this. I think we should evaluate these cards on a case-by-case basis, as we're going to do. But also, there's a lot of synergy in this pack, because Esteban isn't that bad necessarily either, right? Because he's taking captain's discretion, so he's enabling your 2 ganking effects, right? And then if you have a crew that's interesting on there, right? So now to kill and try and get these points from the Grissom, they're taking an Ox or losing a crew, and they're giving your ship one of your 50-point ships a good crew. That you're making them pay a heavy cost.
See,
Yeah.
I think if you're doing that, Joseph, I would actually almost go with Chakotay, double action Chakotay, and run Second of 5 and Julian Bashir, Mirror Universe Julian Bashir.
Well, let's talk about that, because let's hold off on that. I just want to say this USS Grissom we're hypothesizing. Grissom with Matt Decker, Captain Admiral Matt Decker, and diplomacy is all of 21 points.
And by the way, that's a huge advantage over shuttles, right? Because you can have Admiral Decker on this, and that's what Jordan. That's why Jordan used the RSV that first day, because he put Admiral Q on it, as it turned out, which is there's another candidate for this ship, and it effectively had a captain skill of 0, which is exactly what you want.
You know, and yeah, and you can do, and that's what you can do is you can do Admiral Matt Decker, have a captain skill of 0, and you could even, if you wanted to save him at the end, you could even throw on an escape pod. Yeah. I mean, not if you did him as Admiral, but if you do him as Captain.
That's right.
And rereading this, what I love is even if a ship, like a bio ship, attacks it, if it doesn't have a crew, it takes an Ox.
Yeah, that's nice.
And that's huge, right? Because now the ship that's killing it, if it's a fighter, if it's something else, it really limits its ability to turn after.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah,
so
there's
all right.
a huge sacrifice at this point.
I'd almost prefer that.
All right.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I am sold on the Grissom. I think this is I'm convinced. I think that this is definitely in competition for RSV space, and it's been a long time since we've seen something like that isn't a shuttle. Okay.
I think it almost eclipses an RSV. Because RSVs couldn't go through cloaked mines, but this now can go through cloaked mines.
RSV, it's the generic is 2 points cheaper, and I guess okay. So let's think about this. The generic Oberth, which I guess we should also evaluate as part of the pack, right? Is a 2-3-3-1. We assume for 12 points, same cost as the RSV. The old generic was Tech Crew. The new one might be Tech Crew. Either way, better slots than the RSV.
Yeah.
It can take Decker for 1 point. It can take Decker as an Admiral for 1 point.
You can even take system upgrades for 2 points and add a shield if you really wanted it.
But you can't put an interface generator on it.
No, but there are other attack cancels.
Yeah, but the ability. You want people attacking the ship. You're begging people to attack the ship.
That's what I'd say. I'd say that. Well, I'm talking about the generic now, Robert.
Right. Okay, fair point.
Cloak and Sensor Echo will sometimes be nice.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think the RSV is a better ship if you don't want it to die.
But well, it can stay alive longer, but what its impact will be after it's used its tricks will be less. It's 1 attack die, this is 2, and this has target lock, and the RSV doesn't.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, there's this is a discussion, I think is my point, is that this is a discussion. It's more of a discussion than I thought, so I'm sold. And I love this pack already. Let's be real here. I love this pack already. Now, I do want to move us on to JT Esteban, the captain, because there's a really interesting discussion to have here. So JT Esteban is a unique Federation captain, skill 3, cost 2. It says the captain's discretion elite talent upgrade may be equipped to this captain, and it has the ability, when the ship would be destroyed, move up to 2 crew upgrades equipped to the ship to another friendly ship, even if it exceeds that ship's restrictions. I don't think we can really evaluate him without talking about captain's discretion as well. So captain's discretion is a non-unique 4-point Federation elite talent that says free action, discard this card, perform the action of crew upgrade equipped to the ship.
So Tucker, on top of that, not only is it non-unique, but as you discussed with the developers, it's also not ship unique.
It's not ship unique, right. We have an icon for that. We'll see it later in this pack, but it is not ship unique. So before we even get to Esteban's ability, the question must be asked. Can Esteban equip multiple copies of Captain's Discretion?
So I am not a linguist by trade. So Tucker, I know you study this more than I do. My question is, what does the word "the" before Captain's Discretion inflect? Because it doesn't say Captain's Discretion upgrade may be equipped. It says the Captain's Discretion. Does that give any change to your interpretation?
So
What does the Enterprise say about Ox tokens? That's the question for that.
The Teeny prize?
Yeah.
Let me have a look. Enterprise. Let's
By
see.
the way, just so everybody knows, Tucker has devised this new system for us to do these podcasts. So he's super excited that Joseph and I get to see Utopia with him when he's bringing these cards up. That is why he's so upbeat when he says, let's go take a look.
Yeah,
He's peacocking a little bit.
Well, it's not just
And-
that. It's that we can. I like it because. Yeah, shut up. Okay, so USS Enterprise. The Enterprise can perform an action listed on its action bar while it has an auxiliary power token. Now So that's singular. That's singular.
And it
What?
got ruled that it can be multiple, right?
Right. So that's singular. The is singular, but here's conversely, the here to me refers to upgrade. It's specifying which upgrade can be equipped. So you can equip this card. That's clear. Can you equip multiples of this card? I don't know. Let me see. I think there's
to be clear, that's my only defense. So Tucker's point in all of this is you can equip multiple captains' discretions.
maybe.
Maybe.
I'm not saying for sure. Ask
Right.
your TO.
Ask your TO. And me ruling out in Fremont, I would probably rule it as 1. But I tend to lean more to what I believe was the design purpose. And so I don't follow necessarily the letter of the rule.
I
But
think
And because every party has a pooper, and that's why we
Yes.
invited Robert.
I would say here's the way I feel about it. The way I feel about it is, if I'm going to be corrected about the design intent. So here's an interesting thing, by the way. I have been doing some browsing on the WizKids rules forums that are not for Attack Wing. Because I've been curious to try and figure out what is that background noise?
That was somebody bringing me a piece of mango.
Oh, well, I'm glad you have mango. So I've been browsing around on the other forums, and if you go to the Dice Masters forums, and I'm trying to find where it is, there is a I think it's maybe a sticky in the questions. Yeah, here it is. It's under Judge Guidance. So in the Judge Guidance for Dice Masters, they say, when in doubt, choose the weaker option. Now, this is not a stated principle for Attack Wing. Nowhere does it say this about Attack Wing. But But it's interesting to me because WizKids has consistently chosen to make this way, make this true for attack wing whenever we've seen them rule. So
courts would call this, it is not precedent, but it is guidance.
Right, exactly. And so what I would say is this: if I am going to be wrong about the designer's intent, I think it's more reasonable to rule that you can only take one and then be corrected by the designer than to say you can take multiples and have to have them correct you to one only.
This is shocking. This is almost a fundamental change in Tucker's mentality.
Well, it's because I've been trying to, rather than sit there and say, well, here's what I think, I've been trying to analyze what has been done and consider that.
No, I'm on board. This will now become my standing point for all things of ITO. And we haven't discussed this before, and you're just bringing this to my attention, and it's a brilliant observation and ruling that I'm immediately incorporating.
I'd just like to take a moment to say that I'm still here defending the ways of the old guard, and that's a bunch of baloney.
No, I know.
Just said.
And see, what I'm trying to do is figure out what WizKids is thinking, which is Sisyphean?
A dangerous, yeah. Pyrrhic. It's Pyrrhic. If you succeed, it would be Pyrrhic for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's also, by the way, I've been noticing some things about in the HeroClix rules. They have rules about tournament integrity, which says WizKids reserves the right to issue rulings during a tournament to preserve the integrity of that tournament at the discretion of WizKids. Actions may take to correct rules, quote unquote, loopholes or exploits deemed disruptive to the tournament and the general spirit of the game. Now that's HeroClix, but keep in mind this is basically the same pool of judges. So
and on a complete non sequitur, that was amazing, Mango.
I'm
just saying.
Okay, well, whatever. So we're getting into philosophy here, and I know Joseph hates the very
philosophical point about that Mango being good. It purely was good.
So one thing that's I think certain though is that if you do put multiple captains' discretions on, you could only activate one of them per turn, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's crystal clear.
Yeah,
right.
Because it's an action, and you can only perform one action per ship.
And,
right?
and let's say
even if it's different cards,
right? And let's say
precedent for that too.
Right. And let's say you put two of these under Kirk, right? Like there are captains in the game that obviously and totally can equip two of these. You can only activate one. That's set in stone.
Yeah.
It's set in stone and crystal clear. So I guess it's a clear stone. Quartz.
Quartz is not clear. It's more opaque.
I don't care. So now that we've discussed that to death, let's look at his actual ability. He sends Sarek and Marcus to the planet.
Yeah, is there a range on this?
No, there is not. Well, that's interesting.
So
okay, this is what you do. You use this with warp jump and any kind of ramming attack. And then first turn you fly. First turn you fly over, destroy your ship, and then those two beam back across the board to create a clown car on something like Voyager or the Enterprise A.
You could just self-destruct.
Yeah, or self-destruct. Yeah.
I mean,
put them on the Sakharov, and you could have escape transporter. So you're actually moving, up to 5 upgrades.
Yeah. Now but
the idea with warp jump and self-destruct is he's all the way across the board.
So Robert, you do realize that ramming attack is an attack, and you can't use it after you warp jump, right?
Right. Well, yeah, that's what I think self-destruct is. Well, self-destruct doesn't work with warp jump either because it is after combat that it gets placed back down.
Right. Yeah. No, there's a lot of reasons that. Well, you could QSS and then self-destruct.
And if you could get a 5 straight on this, which would be pretty difficult.
Well, you wouldn't have to use it on the Oberth. Why would you?
Oh, good point. Yeah, good point.
Why would you assume that? Okay.
Yeah, it's a fact. So what you could do is you could use it on the Raven, equip ion thrusters,
Yeah, Robert is such a fan of that ruling. So so here's my thinking. What if you jump in and then you steal stuff and then blow up your gank ship? No, that's terrible. That sounded way better in my head. Wow. I apologize.
But if you second a 5 or something.
Well, no. Stealing, like Croesus. Like you jump in with a tiny ship, steal something, and then send it back to your carrier.
You steal a crew from the other ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if they blow you up, boy, it's costly.
Then you blow yourself up. That's the whole point.
Well, no. Actually, if you're doing it...
You don't even have to, though.
Yeah, if you're doing it on the Grissom, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Grissom just flies out there and taunting them.
Well, yeah, but then you give the Grissom, you can give the Grissom legitimately 4 attack dice.
Yeah.
So this is such a weird, it's amazing to me that one pack is changing so much in this game.
And this is only one, right? So this I am fairly confident that this trend will continue, that they're really improving the scope of this game.
All right, let's talk about Captain's Discretion by itself. It's Leonard McCoy, but +1 point, non-unique, and in an elite talent slot. Joseph, you were saying before the show that the slot is highly relevant. Talk to us.
Well, it is, because on something like Quark's Treasure, it's hard to get McCoy. It's hard to get McCoy on. 3's an awkward slot for crew, right? Because you're using cargo hold, and it can't be over 4. So, on that ship, as a very specific example, being able to just put it into the elite talents is huge. And then elite talent slots on ganking ships aren't often that occupied. I mean, diplomacy for sure, but other than that, right? You're not putting lure on there. You're not putting, invaluable advice, any of those kind of elite talents. So it's a slot you can use and then free up one of your crew slots to put on something else. So it's worth the extra point, I think, to get it into that slot.
I agree. I think this is a very playable card. I love that it's not unique.
Yeah, me too. I mean, only being able to use one in a turn, I think, curbs any huge abuses. So I think it works fine that way.
Yeah, and we saw with Jordan Cott how important Agony Booth was, and that's just another way to get Leonard McCoy out of that slot. And this is just another way of doing that.
Well, but that's the thing. Tech slots are also
how much
right?
is McCoy? The
3
crew is 3, and the other option would be Riker is 5. So extra crew slot, free action Riker is 5.
Well, that's repeatable. That's a whole different monster.
Yeah, but only for 1 point more. So he is slot neutral because he gives back the crew slot that he takes.
Sure, but then you can't play Pegasus Riker or Hood Riker, I guess. If you're
right.
Hilariously, there is an opportunity cost for Riker, and that just amuses me to death.
I think it's fair. I think I like the fact that I think Joseph brought this up previously, that Rikers can tend to be more powerful cards, such as defensive reroll Riker, but you have that opportunity cost, which is another economic consideration.
Yeah, it's good when all versions of a particular character are roughly at the same power level. Jean-Luc Picard being another good example, except for Discount Picard. Nobody likes him.
Oh, no, I love Discount Picard.
Okay, nobody likes him except the guy who thinks Energy Dissipator is worthwhile.
So that means I'm right.
To all you Energy Dissipator fans out there.
Clearly, the answer is
the joke is that there aren't any.
Yeah, well, somebody posted it today. But the thing about in defensive Discount Picard, you basically get a 55-point ship with a Captain Skill Abate.
Okay, so let's not talk about that.
Because I'm right.
I
think we should move on. I have definitively proven my point, so we can move on.
So many other things to talk about.
I agree that we should move on immediately after I say this. if you had an 8 skill captain that cost 0 points, you wouldn't fly him. So that's why I don't think he's any good.
Oh, I disagree. You don't think you're flying an 8 skill captain that's 0 points?
No way. Eight. No, definitely.
What about an 8 skill captain that costs -5 points?
Okay, what about an 8 skill captain that said you can't run Picard 9 or Ahab Picard in this fleet?
Also true.
That
And
is-
-5, sure. But
I mean, that's what he is. He's effectively a -5 captain.
no,
he's-
because he costs 5.
Oh, that's right. Fair. Okay, good point. So yeah, he is a 0.
And he's a 0 that says you cannot run 2 of the best captains in the game. Hey, let's talk about David Marcus. He's right here.
He's out of captain.
All right, so David
I'm
Marcus.
lost. You've taken me off the tracks. I don't know where we're going now.
Yeah,
I'm lost in
exactly.
fog.
Exactly. So that was the point. So
Tucker,
David Marcus.
if you could keep us on track a little bit better, I'd appreciate that.
So I have a
Just a
question.
note. Just a
Hey,
little
so
note.
Joseph, did you play softball today? We didn't have a baseball conversation.
Oh my God. So David Marcus, oddly pictured with his mouth open. I don't know why they chose this still out of every single second of David Marcus footage. Anyway, David Marcus, he's a unique 3-point Federation crew. If a crew upgrade would be equipped to the ship would be discarded, discard this card instead, or when defending, discard this card to add 1 evade result to your defense roll.
Does this replace Crusher?
No.
That's the interesting comparison, right?
No,
she's 3 points, and she has the same ability as the top half. She can discard for a card.
No,
but then in addition to that, she can also disable.
Which is why she's a completely different thing. You
She's
never use Crusher for her discard ability. You only use her as part of a combo with like Phlox.
Well, she's the same cost as Lee
Nallis
Nallis on a Fed ship, right? So I use her.
Well,
Yeah.
but
I use her with Troy.
okay. Well,
I mean, and if Goval's elsewhere, is
Right.
thing.
That's a fair point.
that's Goval is the comparison I want to make. This is Goval, except he can do a Jadzia Dax substitution, mirror Jadzia Dax substitution if he needs to.
So, but the reason I don't like his second ability, the wind defending component, is if you're using him, it is part of a combination you plan to execute.
No, I disagree entirely.
I would say that I would think that would tend to be true, but here's why I think it's still good. Copilot is so great, and you think, oh, you're always going to use it for battle station. But playing with it, you use it for an evade a lot of the time to like, oh, you would kill my ship exactly? Okay, I'm evading. Now I'm still alive. Now I get to shoot around. So yeah, David Marcus is part of a combo you want to use, but he's also an emergency, like, it's not great to use him for his one evade, but like, wow, sometimes it'll be really great.
It's cheat death. Sometimes it's cheat death.
That's right.
And here's the other
3 points.
Here's the other
Go
thing.
ahead.
Here's the other thing. Let me throw a different one at you. You know what I see sometimes is I see a point for him, and I'm just going to use this as an example. Joseph, I apologize in advance. Robert, please hold in your gloating. You can see him in a Madred build where you have Madred and you have Lee Nallis. You have Madred as captain, and then you have Lee Nallis. But here's the thing. Madred is a Madred target. So in the mirror, you put on Goval so that Lee Nallis can protect Madred from being Madredded. But if you're not in the mirror, that's not great. So David Marcus can just go ahead and be that extra shield or hull.
And
I guess that's a way to look at it. 3 points for an additional hole.
Well, it's only 1 point. If it's a
How are you
Fed ship,
describing it by 2?
if it's a Fed ship, the difference between him and Goval is 1 point, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
So in situations where Goval would be useful, he's a Goval that can save your ship's butt.
But now we're just using it for that evade token.
Yeah, but you're right. You're not planning to use him for an evade token. It's not a token, actually. That's an important distinction. You're not
Mhm.
planning to use them for that evade result, but sometimes you will, and it'll be very significant.
And by the way, this is the kind of thing, if you put this on a ship that can, for example, use an interface generator, you can use this after interface generator. No, wait, can
No,
you?
you cannot.
No, you cannot.
can't.
No, you can't. Oh, I hate that.
Bro-
Man, that particular interaction.
Tucker, you don't talk about Romulans. You've never flown a Romulan ship in your life.
That's correct because they're not worth caring about. Heyo.
Well, we'll see. Faction pack's coming.
The faction pack is coming. Okay. Yeah, I think
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say this. You know, we can talk about David Marcus. He's in the conversation.
He's certainly not better than Crusher. They're different. I think she's probably better, but I think there are builds when you would take him instead of her.
Right.
I will also say for potential cards in the pack, it is still a good card.
It is. And let's look at it this way, right? Robert, you're saying you're using Crusher with Deanna Troy.
Mm-hmm.
This is straight up better for that.
Well, potentially, yes, in that situation. But my point for that comment is if you're using something like Crusher or Goval, you have the intention to discard a crew, right? Because the only things you're generally protecting if you're afraid of ganking is captains, usually, not crew.
Well, sure, but my point is if you are at any point ever using Beverly Crusher to back up a discard, which I still don't think is a good idea, David Marcus is better. Because if you intend
backing up Troy is a fantastic idea because she gives you a battle station.
Backing up Troy specifically with Crusher.
Oh, got it.
My point is David Marcus is better for that if Goval is elsewhere.
Yeah. That's a good point. Because you get the flexibility.
And even if Goval's not elsewhere, actually, I can see circumstances if for some reason you had a board captain, if you had the extra point.
Yeah, because you are getting utility out of that 1 point.
Exactly.
This all assumes that it's a Fed ship, right?
Right.
But it probably will be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you're running Deanna Troy, it's most likely a Fed ship.
Right. And speaking of getting extra use...
interesting. That actually pairs very well with the Grissom because you get your battle station you wouldn't have otherwise.
Oh,
yeah, that's a
that
good
is
point.
Interesting. And it's another incentive for them to try and kill the Grissom, which is just a terrible plan for them. That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, I'm starting to like it. And speaking of getting extra utility out of that 1 point, let's look at Savik. Not good Savik. Not Kirstie Alley Savik. Disappointing Robin Curtis Savik.
So many comments right now, but I'm just going to push forward because we need to be focused.
Anyway,
it's good because disappointing actress for a disappointing card.
The card is a 1 point
Federation. It's 1 point.
Okay, hang on. Federation crew upgrade, 1 point, as we've been saying. When defending, if this ship is within range 1 to 2 of a planet token, the ship may convert 1 blank result into 1 evade result. I cannot possibly think of a time you would take this over Elizabeth Lenz.
Always.
Do you not notice that you have to be within range of a planet token, Robert?
Okay, so I was being hyperbolic.
This is my problem with it. As of right now, anyway, there's no time that you would be playing in a scenario that has a planet that you wouldn't know has a planet. Like, there's nothing that puts a planet into play to surprise you or something, right?
Oh, I want that card so badly.
Yeah, that'd be an amazing card.
Agreed. So this is either a completely, and again, this is from a competitive standpoint, right? Because for missions, whatever. But from a competitive standpoint, it's either a completely useless crew because you need a 1 point Federation crew after Elizabeth Lenz for her to start mattering, right?
Okay,
and then
I'm going to disagree. Hold that thought. I'm going to disagree with that, but go ahead.
And then if there is a planet token, then it's an auto include in every build. Like
Okay,
it's objectively wrong not to include it. In your
I retract what I was going to say. You are absolutely right, Joseph. I completely agree. This is almost better than system upgrades. It is better than parametallic hull plating. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Because
Okay.
essentially, this is.
Look.
Go ahead, Tucker.
if there's a planet, this card is great. If there's not a planet, this card is terrible. The vast majority of the time,
Tucker, it's not a great card. It's an auto-included card.
Yeah. It's
fair.
better than great.
It's fair. The vast majority of time, there is no, oh my God, guys, I just thought of something. Going back
Genesis should have put a planet on the board.
Well, obviously, but besides that, going back to last episode where we had Ida and Veronica on there, right? And we discovered that in OPs, if your opponent agrees, you can add obstacles to a scenario.
Okay, I did listen to that. I was not here to object to that. The OP rules are very clear, or I think the rule book is very clear that that is for friendly games, and that the OPs are a different set of rules.
I challenge you to find the word friendly in the rule book.
Well, there's free games and then OP games.
Either way, if your opponent agrees to put a planet token in and you have this card and they don't, then they're an idiot. So it's a card for beating idiots, right?
So you've already won.
Yeah, well, so what's the point of that?
Are you going to complain about them making cards for beating idiots? Joseph, you're on the hot seat. Are you going to complain about them making cards to punish idiocy?
Yes.
You are not the man I thought. You can't, can you?
No, Joseph is being polite. And his heart does not reflect what his mouth says.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I told you. All right. So let's leave Savik hopefully on the Genesis.
And by the way, her range, with how large planets are, you will almost always be within range.
Yeah, it's the range is not an issue. Like, I didn't even bother mentioning that. She's an auto include or she's worthless.
Yeah. Which is significantly better than most of the cards in this game right now. In fact, Tucker, with this ship, how does your top 300 change?
I'm waiting until the next starter set comes out and to see the new rulebook, because the whole thing is going to have to be completely redone.
Yeah.
I mean,
most of these are added, right? I feel like many of these cards get in there.
Oh, I would argue
seven of them would go on.
I would argue. Okay, well, let's keep a running tally, because I am going to move this, by the way, from the STAW 300 to something else, because it's going to be bigger than 300.
It'll have to be.
And hey, folks, if you want to message us on Facebook or comment on the Facebook page with new names, go ahead. I had one and I forgot what it was. So now you have this opportunity. I had a great idea.
For the STAW 300, you mean?
Yeah, well, it's going to be the STAW something, like the STAW Power Rankings, or I just can't remember. I had an idea.
The Grand STAW?
No. What? Okay, so let's keep a running tally. So Grissom, yes, included. JT Esteban, maybe. Depends on how many captains.
He's a definite yes.
Okay, definite yes. I trust.
I don't know if he's a definite yes.
He's a definite yes. That he's playable?
Are they not the top 300 playable?
Yeah, he's abusable. You can transport them from across the board, we said.
Yeah, that's fair. Captain's discretion, absolutely on the list. David Marcus, absolutely on the list. Savik.
No.
In the circumstances where there are planets, she is an auto include. That's good enough to make the cut.
What circumstances are those, though?
When there's a planet. Anytime there's a planet, you take her.
Like in an OP?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess there could be an OP that has a planet. That's very true.
Well, what if they go back to...
What plug time, Arena. We're running it at Fremont this weekend. Come play. We actually have an S4 to give away as a prize.
Okay, and forget Arena for a second, right? Joseph, if we go back to the original world scenario, that had planets. Anytime you're doing that scenario, planets. And if you're playing Savik, bam, put in that planet. What are they going to do? Put in another one? Great, she's even better.
Why would they? I don't think there's been any indication that we're going back to that format.
Well, no, but I mean, I know that people play casually with that. I know that people play...
Right, so from that's what I said. From a competitive standpoint, which is the STAW 300.
Let me finish. There are OPs where that is a generic scenario that is played when there is no official OP to play.
That's fair. Okay, I'm gonna take a better stance. I'll say 1/8 of the OPs include a planet, but that might be high.
That's not true.
1/10, 1 out of 10.
How many do?
Arena did,
and the
there
Q one?
was one of the Q ones included a
I
planet.
think multiple Dominion War ones did, right? There was
You
Siege.
might be right.
There's the Siege of whatever. There was the Attack on Earth. Those each had a planet.
I might buy 1 and 8. With
Peak Performance had a planet.
Peak Performance had a planet.
Okay.
Oh
so
God, can you imagine this in Peak Performance?
Well, the thing, it's just, yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Then there's 8. If we put her as a playable, then there's 8.
I mean, yeah, and also if Savik is playable, if there's a planet, she is. Imagine this, okay? Put her on the ISS Defiant with improved deflector streams.
Yeah.
I mean, what do? That's 3 auto negates.
It's not an auto negate. It's 75%. Your one that die is 75% to get an evade. Well, I guess there's more, right? But like, you can roll 3 battle stations.
What are you talking about?
Right. He's just saying if she doesn't automatically.
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, you put Pegasus Riker on there too.
Yeah, and then you're guaranteed an evade.
Then you're guaranteed an evade, and then you take an evade token, and you just eat 4 hits every single round. You put Janeway on there. Take 2 evade tokens. Put Valeris on there.
At least.
Yeah. All right. So I think she goes, and also I would argue that almost every 1-point crew is playable. Like if you don't own Elizabeth Lenz, she can be your 1-point crew.
Okay, so she's playable.
She's playable.
So we're up to 8.
We're up to 8. Well, our running total currently is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, next card, Federation Helmsman. 3-point Federation crew, not unique. Action, place an auxiliary power token beside their ship. Perform a white 1 straight, 1 bank left, or 1 bank right maneuver. This is a bastard love child of Admiral Forrest and Engage that is a crew.
Non-unique crew.
Non-unique
as well.
So the immediate result is this. The order of operations here is you place the auxiliary power token, then you perform the white maneuver. If you put this on Federation or the same ship as Federation Reliant Chakotay, it does not give you that aux token because it immediately goes away.
Chekhov.
Yes, Chekhov, not Chakotay, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's a very natural and powerful synergy. I really like that it costs 3. 5, you wouldn't play it. 1, you'd play it on every ship, right? So it's where I think it's going to matter and how powerful it is how many ships are in the meta that have a 90-degree arc.
Right, because you can't. The thing that Forrest has this doesn't is the 1 turn. This doesn't give you the 1 turn. And as an Engage player, I used to back in the early days of the game. Engage on the D was one of my favorite things to do. Those banks don't always get you there. They just don't.
I was playing around with it today. 2 banks essentially get you 2/1 banks essentially get you a 3 turn.
Right, but a turn and a bank is going to get you
a 270
most of where you need
change.
to be.
Yeah.
But so he's not as good as getting. His primary job, I don't think, will be getting your firing arc on your opponents. Though he'll do that ably, just not anywhere near as good as Forrest. It'll be getting out of your opponent's firing arcs, which those banks do help.
I also like him on anything that has a 360.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Does he work with any of the suicide attacks?
They take an action, so you'd need.
Do all of them take?
You'd need Captain's Discretion, Joseph. Come on, it's in this pack.
Well, should we not note that?
Yeah, fine. You need Captain's Discretion or something like that. It would work with a ramming attack, maybe.
Oh, interesting. So suicide attack says Oh, no, never mind. I would have went for suicide attack. So ramming attack. Was that the other one?
Yeah.
But that's an attack, though.
Oh, you want to do it? You want to do it in this round?
Yeah, during the activation.
Well, I got nothing for you. Look, I don't think that's. Let me put it this way. I don't think enabling suicide attacks is the primary use of this card. I think if you are doing that, you are doing it wrong.
Hey, you never know.
I'm pretty sure I know this one.
When the Hathaway or a Fed ship like that has Admiral Forrest at the highest captain skill, it can become a nightmare to try and get them in arcs, and then they can often get you in arcs too because of the 180. If you have Forrest and this guy on your other ship, you could really dry up your opponent's targets for making attacks.
And keep in mind, right, Forrest, when he's on a not Federation ship, is 6 points, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the
That's
exact
a good
same.
point.
Which is the exact same cost of this plus Fed Reliant Chakotay. So we're willing to pay 6 points for Forrest. We have done it many times.
Well, they would be 8.
No, I'm saying on a Fed ship they would be 6.
Well, then he would be 3.
No, Joseph. If you have
Joseph
Forrest,
is right. I'm siding with Joseph on this one,
If-
Tucker.
Joseph, if you have Forrest on one ship, you can pay the same cost you would pay for him on a not Fed ship to put that combo on a Fed ship in addition to that. What I'm
Right.
saying is the Forrest effect is worth 6 points. We have established this firmly.
Yeah.
So on a Fed ship, you can pay the same cost we have established is a fair cost to get
No, it's more than fair, actually.
right. My point is this plus Fed Reliant Chakotay. I hate that I have to keep making that specification now,
It's actually independent Chakotay.
and God, why do I keep doing that? This and Fed Reliant Chekhov at 6 points is a great cost for a great effect. And it's not like Engage was bad. Like, Engage is still on the list of playables, I think, or it should be. Like, it's not like this is a bad effect, even if you can't take off the APT. You know what's this great on, actually? The Stargazer.
Yeah.
It's excellent on the Stargazer.
Yeah. Or, like, with Power Grid or anything that gets rid of an APT. You know how to do this. We don't have to go over this. Okay. So that's definitely on the playable list. So that pushes us to 6.
Out of 6 or out of 7 because of the generic one?
I think the generic Oberth is playable.
6. Well, then we're at 7 out of 7.
Do I think the generic Oberth is playable? I think I was arguing earlier that it's not, but I've changed my mind. I can do that. I have that right. So far we're.
I think it might be valuable to see what slots it has before we determine that. But
You know what?
I'm
That's
pretty
right.
confident it has standard over slots.
Well,
But
we don't know that. So we're at let's just say we're at 6 out of 6 with a question mark.
okay.
All right. So the next card on the preview page is Pegasus Riker, newly templated. He showed up in multiple Worlds fleets. I think it's safe to say that he's playable.
well, he's already on there, I don't think he counts. But
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think we need to spend any time on that. But it's good that they're doing this, right?
Yeah, and I think what we want to highlight with this card is they're illustrating here how they're structuring their design moving forward and showing how the cards will work. And so I think that is one of the good things they did. Also, we saw with the Nanclus example for the next OP as a participation card. We get to see how they want cards to work in the future.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Joseph.
I think it's a little weird to reprint a card in a pack that is from a pack you have to have to fly the ship of this pack.
I think it makes sense. I think it resonates with me because you're basically saying this Will Riker replaces the one you got from the other pack. It is a subtle replacement.
But the other one doesn't need to be replaced.
Yeah, you can still run the old one.
You can, but this is going into the new formatting, illustrating how they want it formatted and how they want it to work.
Right. But
Sure. Use a different card is just what I'm thinking. But I don't think it's the end of the world. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a complaint anyway from me. I just find it a little puzzling.
Right, and it's not. I mean, maybe somebody bought an Oberth model and dial on the cheap and let them keep the cards or whatever. Who knows? All right. So we've got a couple tech upgrades, 3 to be exact, so more than a couple. First one is comm station, showing off that new non-unique or a ship unique icon, the X, only one per ship. Yes, I confirmed with Kyle Payne at Origins that the X only means exactly just one per ship. Okay. So, comm station, 4-point Federation tech, ship unique. Add 1 crew slot to this ship's upgrade bar. Now, interesting thing. This is marked as range 1 to 2. Activation phase, disable this card and target a friendly ship. This game round, replace the the captain skill of this ship's captain with the captain skill of the target ship's captain. They don't technically say you have to be in range, but I'm going to assume you have to be.
Isn't that what the 1 to 2 means, though?
Well, no, because if you look at, like, for example, look at, where's another? It's like Savik says within range, she has the 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
But she says she calls out in range, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think that bubble always means range.
It does. It's just inconsistent. Because
Okay.
it should, to be consistent, it should say disable this card and target a friendly ship in range.
Okay, great. So technically speaking, in range is this ship. This works on cloaked ships.
It's additional language, like we saw with the Rom Esri issue.
Right. Okay. All right. Moving on. Well, this certainly makes Gen Con better. Like he needed that.
It doesn't.
It's actually kind of a. I mean, you can certainly run them both, but it does what Gen Con does, right?
That's an
so
interesting
you can
thought.
run a generic captain, and then if you have like Picard 9 with Will Riker, so you're pushing up to 12 skill, you now have 2 12 captains.
Now, you have to disable this card. That's not horribly relevant because I can think of at least 3 ways to get around it off the top of my head.
And you can. It's not an action to use. So if you want to devote your action to this, you can use it every turn.
That's actually true. I don't know how much I like that simply because Romulan Commander hasn't been good in a really long time.
Well, he was never.
But he's
good.
an
He gives
action
you an
to
ox.
activate.
Yeah. And he gives you an ox.
That's true. Or what about I know there's an action or isn't there a Riker that's like action? Your captain skill is now 10.
Yes.
Yes,
Again,
and that's why no one runs him.
he's an action.
Well,
Like-
this is an action if we're thinking of it that way, though.
And no, maybe you only need it for that first round of combat.
It's an action to maintain it, but if you know you're not going to get a shot, you don't have to. You don't have to use it. It still works for 1 round if you have ox tokens.
All right.
It's
And
better.
the thing I like about this is it lets you run those lower skilled captains that are cheaper, so effectively you can get it at the cost of a normal high point captain.
Exactly. What the Hathaway did for captains who are not Picard 9, this card does for low skill captains.
Yeah.
Captains that are not Gen Con.
That's right.
Or not even Gen Con, but just not your 9 or 8 skilled captains.
Oh, wow. You know what? This is actually really good on the Hathaway, too.
Yeah, because you can always take this as your action and then take the Hathaway's ability to take the ops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I see this pairing with Tar. Right. Tar the Ferengi captain, which is at the start of the combat phase, if your ship is in the forward firing arc of an enemy ship, and you do not have a battle station token beside your ship, you may place the battle station beside your ship. Right. This is a perfect pairing for him.
Yeah,
He costs 3.
Tar on the Hathaway with this.
Yeah. And that's 6 points because he's 2. There'll be 1 additional one, so it's 7 points.
Yeah, but you're sort of getting Picard at that point, or a cut rate.
Right, but you're running Picard on a second ship.
That's what I
And-
mean.
yeah.
No, but that's what
Got it.
it's good. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And also, by the way, one other reason I like this is I've been looking at Captain's Chair, the resource recently, right? Well, here's the thing. What I've been doing with Captain's Chair is using it to enable like a couple of combos that only work a couple times. So what I've been looking for is something to use it on every turn once you're done with the combo. Well, gee, how about turning your captain into Gen Con?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
It's great. Wow, it's great with Decker, and actually, I think we're at a point in the game where 6 and 7 skill captains are just they're low skill captains. So
I'm actually gonna extend that. I think 7 because Ducat I feel is actually a liability out there on the board now.
Yeah, well that's yeah 6, 7, and maybe even 8. So lore. Gets helped by this guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't Jellicoe have a close to a Picard-like ability? And
he is disable an upgrade to get a battle stations, I think.
Actually, Beta is fantastic for this.
Which one?
Both, but also the one that you get to place a evade, a scan, or a battle station to.
There are better options.
Yeah, but he's 2 points in a talent slot.
Yeah, I mean, it brings a lot of these to the fore. Chakotay, not Chekhov, is interesting.
Which one?
The Fed one that disables after.
Even Hudson. Running Calvin Hudson to get a discount or add a slot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, by the way, so here's why this card makes the playable cut for me: the ability to translate a tech into a crew slot. That, like, if that was just the card, I don't know that I'd run it for 4 points, but I'd run it.
That's actually a good point. So you could run this with Hudson on the Dauntless and get both a crew and a weapon slot.
Yeah, that's true. And I mentioned this earlier before we were recording. Where it really shines is on ships that can't have captains assigned. So drones and dreadnoughts.
Yeah.
Love this because they also don't have crew slots, which
That's
they want.
Point.
So it's getting you something that you want on those ships. It's giving you the captain skill that was not otherwise accessible. Now, this doesn't work with the name Dreadnought ability because it talks specifically about the ship's captain.
And when you say name Dreadnought, that you're talking about the new Dreadnought.
The new name Dreadnought.
Yeah, the new name Dreadnought. Oh, Mr. Spock. That's another great captain.
Yeah.
That works with.
This turns Mr. Spock into Picard. All right. So I think this card is great. So we're currently at, what do we say, 7 for 7?
Yes.
At this point? All right. Close range scan. Activation phase. If it's a 3-point Federation tech, ship unique. Activation phase. During the activation phase, if this ship performed a scan action, disable one shield, place a scan token beside this ship. I love it.
Yeah, something I want to point out that I really like about what they're doing with the game is when I read this card, I originally wondered if it was close to high energy sensor sweep because where they place the sentence, place the scan token beside the ship is a whole paragraph lower than the actual text. So I was confused that those are two different abilities. But what the game is now doing is it's delineating abilities by creating a solid black line on the card.
Right. Which makes it much more clear how this works. Now,
Right.
I will also point out, if you feel like paying 8 points and losing 2 shields, you can use high energy sensor sweep to activate this every turn.
Yeah.
Now, please don't do that. That is not a strong option. But if you want it, if it's there if you want it. Here's why this is great. First of all those cards that work off scan upgrades, bam, this gets you your second one so you can run multiples on a ship. Second of all, Joseph, how do you feel about this in cloaking?
Yeah, I think that's its main use. Even if you can certainly get 3 scan tokens fairly trivially every turn, and you can get close to 4 or 5 for not that many points for one turn. So that even if a cloaker has dice modification where they can get 6 out of 6 evades, I mean this just wrecks them, right? Like they almost can't cloak. It's a role player, and it's devastating in that role.
And it stops bioships because one of bioship's greatest powers is that it has those 2 evade dice. And it doesn't have that anymore. And Remans, like you're mentioning, Remans go from their deadly 6 evade dice down to 4 evade dice, which is not as nearly as powerful for their survivability.
Yeah, and that's not abuse. Like that's just this card and maybe one other card, like maybe Mr. Spock or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not even really building around it. That's just 3 points, perfect. I'll throw it on because I'm going to be scanning.
I've played this game long enough that I remember the officer cards, and you had the science officer. You could get like 3 scan tokens on your ship, and that was good. That was really good.
I played some fleets that got 4 scan tokens or 5, and you never rolled the defense dice.
Never.
It just never.
Well, you scan. Your action is to scan. This is the second one. Your Romulan pilot is 3, and then you
have Janeway. That's 4.
Well, and I was going to say invaluable. Is there one you can discard?
More than VCI.
Oh yeah, you told me. Yeah, more than VCI. Yeah. So that's 4 without even having to use your captain, and that's 5 with Janeway. And like, man, that's
5 scan tokens. Good lord.
That's not bad. And I think 3's enough.
Yeah,
I think 2's enough. I think 2 shifts the weight of the game. Because your fortune goes from 5 of 8 dice down to 3.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking of is like a ship that's designed to throw like, maybe it's got Sulu. It's throwing 6 to 8 defense dice that are you're re-rolling blanks and converting battle stations, right? Yeah. And if you can get 3 or on 6, so they have a maximum of 3 evades, and then you're putting a 6 dice attack in, so they're taking 3 damage to their hull. Like you've got them close enough that you can finish them off,
and
by the damage squeaking in.
And God help them if they pull a direct hit or a stunned helmsman. Or if they can't pull anything off their I can't think of the one, but is it the damage sensor array? They can't use their action bar. Goodbye cloak.
Right.
That's right.
You shoot off their cloaking device. All right. I think in the interest of time we got to get to this last one. I say there's batting 8 for 8 going into this last card. So let's talk about it.
Are we counting Riker?
No, I don't think we're counting Riker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 for 8.
All right.
Not counting Riker. All right, last card. Genesis Effect, 2-point Federation tech. Setup. During setup, place 1 crew upgrade with a cost of 5 SP or less face down beneath this card. During the end phase, if this ship is within range of a planet, range 1 to 3 of a planet token, disable all of its shields. Flip the crew upgrade beneath this card face up, place 2 time tokens on it, and equip it to the ship, even if it exceeds its restriction. Okay.
So this is Quark for any OP that has a planet.
It's a cut rate Quark, but yeah.
It's inverse Quark, right? It's a tech slot for a crew as opposed to a crew slot for a tech.
And you've got to lose your shields and go near the planet, and then 2 time tokens on it.
Yeah, it's not.
I'd almost auto-include it. I mean, first round, unless someone's warp jumping or quantum slipstreaming, you're going to be able to pick them up first turn. You essentially start range 3 of a planet in the beginning of the game.
And you have the planet to block for you as you lower your shields, right?
Right.
So, but I don't think it's definitely not an auto-include, but it's strong. So to me, it's bad. It's bad in the same way that Savick is bad. It's really strong under these certain conditions, and it's worthless otherwise.
Well,
from a competitive standpoint.
Well, from a competitive standpoint, let me put it this way, because this is something I realized about Savick, and I'm still disappointed it's not Kirstie Alley Savick, by the way. I can't emphasize that enough. Let me think of it like
these are all clearly images from the 3rd movie.
I don't
Riker.
care.
That's pre-Beard Riker, clearly.
I don't care. I miss Kirstie Alley. Okay? You know what? True story. All right, here's some trivia for you. The episode Cause and Effect, right, with the one where they're dying over and over. And at the end, the USS Bozeman pops out, and oh, look, it's Kelsey Grammer. They wanted Savick as the 2nd officer, and they couldn't afford Kirstie Alley.
No, that would have been nice.
That would have been awesome. Are you kidding?
Wow.
I got a Kelsey Grammer. I'm a huge Kelsey Grammer fan, so he got his cameo.
Right, but the whole point is that Kirstie Alley was on Cheers.
So is Kelsey Grammer.
Right, but no, the point was to have both. Anyway.
Were you going to have Diane on there? Ted Danson? Was Ted Danson going to be the comms op or something?
That would have been great, and you know it. Okay, look. So here's the thing. From a competitive standpoint, we have never to date had an OP where we did not know what the scenario was going in.
Right.
Which is to say,
impossible.
right. In this day and age, yeah, there's no way to. Well, you could do like a random scenario, right? You could have.
I guess they're the random cards, which I really enjoyed. They're like the random sector cards.
Right, sure. But my point is, you will always know whether or not you have a planet. So I'm actually content to call this card playable simply because you will know whether it's playable or not by looking at the rules. And if there's a planet, I would run it.
So in a general, as like a list of general cards that are competitive playable, I would say that Savick and this are not, because you could say, well, the Reliant is great. The Reliant is great in an OP where you don't have to attack, right? Like, I mean, these special conditions
cards. Yeah, I agree with you. They're hyper specialized to a condition of the OP.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, if we look at the 300 here, and I've just pulled it up, right? Like, let me sort it by type because that's going to make this easier. So if we look at these.
This is Tucker peacocking again, by the way.
No, will you stop? This is just so we can all refer to it at the same time. I think there are conditional cards on here.
Not this conditional. Not even close.
Mirok. I saw Mirok on there. Mirok is quasi-conditional.
Not like these. These are super conditional.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at my own list, and I'm like, yeah, actually, okay, I see your point.
But whatever. I mean, from the competitive standpoint, if you have a planet, definitely take Savick and strongly consider Genesis Effect.
Yeah.
I would not be offended if they didn't make the list. I saw Amaton on there. I mean, let's drop him because of how many other ways you can get evade dice.
Well, it's like
if these, I mean, whatever. If they, it's no big deal. But I think it's hard to argue not to put every card on.
Okay, so here's a quick question for you, Tucker. Do you remove Engage because of Federation Helmsman?
No,
different slot.
They do different things. Engage's ability to. So the thing about Engage, right, is that so let's look at Engage just so that we're all on the same page here. It lets you perform an additional green maneuver of your choice. Okay, there are green 2 banks. There are green 3 straights. There are green spins. There are green. I don't think there's a green backup anywhere, is there?
But this goes to Joseph's point about situational, right? Federation Helmsman is universal, but now Engage is situational.
Well, Engage is a different slot though, and you're using it on different ships.
Right. It's less. I don't think it knocks Engage off. I think Engage still has a lot of uses. You just use them on a different set of ships. Like one thing you could say, for example, is you could put Federation Helmsman on Voyager, right? Because why? Because Voyager doesn't have banks naturally, 1 banks. So, and that's a ship that should be running Reliant Chekhov anyway.
The Prometheus.
It doesn't have a 1 straight, actually.
Yeah,
I think it has 1 banks. It just doesn't have a 1 straight.
You're thinking of the Prometheus.
Yeah, I had it backwards. But both of them, right? You can't engage and get those on the Prometheus and the Voyager. Like, there are uses for it.
Yeah. Well, Federation Helmsman would go on the Prometheus and the Voyager. Engage would go on things with 3 green forwards, 2 banks, and Borg ships.
Right, exactly. And there are a lot of ships with 3 green banks, 2 green banks, or Borg ships.
So,
all right. Well, but long story short, this is a great pack. And by the way, let's go over again. We've got Captain's Discretion, we've got Comm Station, and we've got Close Range Scan. I would buy 2 of this pack. I could see an argument for buying 3 of this pack.
Yes, and I agree. I think it's a wonderful marketing tactic that they're putting together. And the other thing I've noticed is many of the retail ships only had 1 viable card, and now we're seeing multiple viable cards.
Yeah,
it's great.
And and look, this pack has, what are we going to say? Well, all right, let's say Savick and Genesis Wave are each half of a playable card.
Well,
sure.
I'm not going to say that, but sure.
Well, let's
call them 1/8 each.
No, I'm saying one. The reason I'm saying that, right, is if you say they're 1/2 each, we have 8 playable cards in this pack. Not even counting Pegasus Striker. That is more than some entire waves have had. Specifically, waves.
I agree. It's a great sign.
Specifically, if you are, I'm sorry. If you are waves 1, 3, 17, 21, and especially 23.
No, 23.
Oh,
That's
wave
regional
23.
Regional prizes.
We've had trouble with you before.
You are worse than this pack by itself. Good job. So we've been talking, like, we're arguing here whether you want 2 or 3 of this pack. Should you buy this pack? Unquestionably, you should buy this pack.
I think you can get away with 1.
You can get away with 1. If you can get 2, get 2.
Man, but can you imagine a swarm of the generics?
Yeah, we'll have to see what the stats are on the generic, but
Well,
12 points is not nothing. To attack at 12 points is, I mean, if it had battle stations, that'd be a little different.
well, keep in mind, here's what I'm excited to see, right? Because the thing is, okay, we can say, oh, two attack at 12 points. Well, that's a big deal. Well, think about this. That Klingon ship that we saw, the Samara, those have 3 attack.
That's right.
And
We saw how much it cost. And it wasn't, was it the Samra?
Well, no, it was the Samara Raptor class.
Yeah. And it was, it definitely has 3 attack dice.
It definitely has 3 attack dice, and the cost on it is, I think it's 13. Yeah, so the generic could be as cheap as 11. Big changes coming. All right. Well, I think that's about it for today. Any final thoughts, you guys? Robert?
General plug, we are running Arena over at Fremont, which will have a planet. So if you get a copy of this before this Saturday, feel free to run Genesis Effect and Savik.
If you get a copy of this before this Saturday, I think WizKids lawyers might want to have a word with you.
I'll defend you.
That's right. You could do that. That's another plug. Hey, Joseph, any final thoughts?
I'm looking forward to the deluge of all the content that's coming in the next month and a half. And if it follows this, then I think good times are here again.
Yeah, man, I haven't been this excited. You guys know I've been excited. I haven't been this excited in a long time.
Yeah.
So
6 months of frustration looks like it's going to pay off.
I told you guys. I told
Agreed.
all of you it was worth waiting for, and my God, we're finally here, and it's full of stars.
Well, we'll see. But there's no reason not to be hopeful.
I definitely not after this pack. All right. That's it for tonight, folks. If you like the show, go ahead, give us some good rating on iTunes. Feel free to reach out to us through our Facebook page. We'll see you all next time. But for now, dials down and make you be generous with your dice. State of the Federation is a non-profit, fan-based production of Tucker Kobe, Joseph Vanderyacht, and Robert Fletcher. Editing by Tucker Kobe. State of the Federation original concept by Will Sanchez. Star Trek Attack Wing, the flight path system, and all other properties mentioned are owned by their respective rights holders.